Which player combo needs to have the biggest game/breakout performance for the Tide to beat Clemson? Jacobs and Harris. And you might wonder why I didn't put Bo there. I'll explain. Hinges and Irv Smith, tight end combo. Tony Brown and Deontay Thompson, DB combo. Or Han Miller Lewis, the defensive end/outside linebacker trio. Each one of these represents something significant that has happened in the last 2 games. And based on which one you think Clemson's going to try to exploit or Clemson's going to try to stop and vice versa on Alabama determines which one of these is going to make the difference. Now, I'm looking at it, and to me, we grabbed the obvious. The voting is right now 40% for Jacobs and Harris, and we've been talking about the running backs have to be involved. And then Han, Miller, and Lewis have to be, because you're going to have to contain the quarterback. Isn't that kind of the dialogue that happens every year with Alabama? So let's talk about those, and then in the third quarter we'll finish up wherever we don't get to, and then we'll get the other 2. So let's first of all look at the running back situation. Jacobs and Harris. I intentionally didn't pick Bo because I'm telling you, Bo's been a different back this year. And you go back and look at the productivity of Harris versus Bo, period. And it's not like they've used Bo as a third down running back. So it's not because sometimes you can look and go, well, he's running the ball because it's always third down and short. Well, that's not the case. Bo just has not been as productive. And I think he hadn't been productive because he's been playing not to get hurt. I really believe that. This is the most healthy he's been all year, and now he's down to the championship game. And I think last year's game will be in his head. I think it'll be in his head, and I think you'll see more of what you've seen. If it's open and he doesn't get hit, he's dangerous. But when he's getting hit, he's going down. He's not getting into any of those piles. He's not moving the pile like you used to see him do. To me, he doesn't seem to be finishing runs like he did last year. Jacobs, on the other hand, started the year off slow. And as they've tried to work him in, to me, it's kind of hurt the chemistry of the other 2 running backs. And it's kind of hurt how they've used Harris. But I think with the off time and the long break, they're going to have enough time to get enough different ways to get him the ball. To me, he's going to be like, they're going to do some of the Kiffin-type Reggie Bush stuff, not just as a running back, but having Jacobs and Harris on the field at the same time. Maybe even starting them off in the backfield at the same time and not necessarily running it with both of them from the backfield, but using that to see how they play him and create some mismatches by moving him in motion, getting him on an outside linebacker, et cetera, into the slot, using him in the reverse. I think Jacobs has 10 to 12 total touches with running and receiving the ball. Look for him to use him out of the backfield, et cetera. I think they're going to feed Harris. I think he's going to get an opportunity to finally be what he thinks he can be, but no one else, including that coaching staff, has. But I think if we do all of that, James, it's going to put us in a position to win, but I don't think that's the key to winning if we don't do some of these other things. So if Alabama fails to utilize their running backs, I think we lose the game. But I don't think it necessarily gives us the victory. Much like last year, we were in position to win that game and we went away from the running backs. I don't think we go away from it like we did last year. I think we continue to feed the beast. No matter who it is, I think we will utilize whichever running back is in the game and available to be used in the game. Then the other part, the part that's getting the most, is I think everybody's giving Kelly Bryant a lot more credit than I do. And I'm not saying he's a good quarterback. but I don't think he is as good as the guys we faced in the past. But I do think it's going to be important that we're able to control him, keep him in the pocket. Therefore, Hand at defensive end is going to need to get pressure when we're not in a pass rush situation, meaning when we're lined up man-to-man, Hand's going to have to Hand's going to have to live up to that number one overall recruit status in this game. He's going to have to make his NFL money on Monday night, James. He's going to have to get pressure without us having to send the house. Because if we send the house, it makes an inaccurate quarterback look more accurate because he has more open space to get the ball in. But if Hand can create and generate some movement, along with the combination of Miller and our Lewis doing likewise, and we don't have to blitz as much, then they don't have a quarterback that can do what the quarterback's done the last 2 years, and that is get the ball into tight windows when there's coverage. You go back and look last year and the year before, our DBs got toasted our defense got toasted for almost 900 yards, but I would say 700 of those yards or more, we had good, decent coverage. It wasn't like guys were running wide open. He put it on the back shoulder. He put it at the high point where their big receiver could go up and get it. If these three guys can create enough pressure, and I didn't put him in there, but I think they'll use Mac Wilson to also create that pressure as well. So he could have been a part of this combo trio. But those guys, so those two things to me are the obvious. If Alabama do those two things, they have a really, really good chance of winning. But I believe that the other two are the two that are the difference maker. And I'll explain why coming back on the other side. I believe Hinges and Irv Smith and T. Brown and D. Thompson, I believe those combinations are the key to Alabama having a big-time game and making a difference. And I'll tell you why on the other side. Which combo group needs to have the best game? Our trio, in this case of the linebackers. Right now, you feel like it's Deshaun Hand, Christian Miller, and Terrell Lewis as outside linebackers because everybody's been telling you we have to contain the quarterback. And that's true. We have to contain him because the quarterback position has killed us. But I don't think that's going to be as hard as it's been in the past. But I think it's critical that we don't let him get off and we take away his legs and make him beat us passing the ball. Sounds like the same game plan they're going to have against us. Then that makes them go to their running backs or their receiving game, one of the two. Well, we want them to go to their running game. I do not think their running backs are on par with the running backs they had last year. They got a lot of big receivers, but the quarterback's not as accurate. So you just want to take away his legs and make them either go to their running game or go to their passing game. So when you do that, James, when you force them to go to their running game, I don't think that's going to work. And I don't think that presents as near a threat, and they don't want to go there. And so that means you're going to force them to their passing game. And that becomes why T. Brown and Deontay Thompson become so important. Because now you force them into doing something, and if you are not ready to stop what you force them into doing, what happens? So think about this. Alabama gets their wish, and they force them into passing. Who has been the dagger for Alabama? Everybody talks about how bad Jalen played last year, and I agree. We had bad third down performance, but it wasn't all the quarterback. It was the entire offense. We got behind the chains. I think the average to go on third down was like 3rd and 8 or 9. So think about that. What quarterback is going to have success when the average to go is 3rd and 9? Not very many. And some of that was because we had incomplete passes on first down. Some of that was because we had penalties. Some of that was because we had negative plays in the running game. But when Alabama got Clemson on third down, James, and they went to their passing game, they have a dagger. I think he had 7 completions or receptions last year on, guess what? Third down. Renfro. So if Alabama stops Clemson and contains the quarterback, what we've done is force ourselves into something that has been a weakness the last 2 years. And Kelly Bryant isn't a great deep ball accurate passer, but he's not that bad on the short stuff. And the dagger in Alabama's armor that has consistently hurt us for 2 games in a row is Renfro keeping drives alive, James. And so if they play it the way I think they will, do you think that most likely if they play it the way they've played in the past, who's going to be on Renfro? Based on whether they have 5 DBs or 6 DBs, it's going to be Tony Brown or Deontay Thompson if it's played out the way it is. So going into this game, think about the offseason, James. This break. Alabama has had to have had the conversation. They got a new quarterback. They got new wide receivers. But there's one guy that has been our kryptonite, and he's still there. And that's Hunter Renfro. He will be there on Monday night. And Tony Brown must step up his game and play like the 5-star that he was recruited as and the flashes that he's shown. And the same with Deontay Thompson when he's in the game. Those two have to, if they're the guy, and I think they will be, and do you take a chance, James, and put Minka on him on third down? Do you put in a defense where you just say Minka? Because remember, as a freshman, he took Minka to school. So Minka got better in the second half, but this kid has been a dagger, and that's why I have those two guys. They have to have a great game.
You mentioned the 3rd and longs from last year's game. Alabama, by the way, was in 3rd and long situations 11 times during last year's game.
Okay, so and that was probably in the average, I think, ended up being like 9. So that tells you
and there were more than a handful of 3rd and more than 10s to go, by the way, of those 11 3rd and long situations.
Right. And 3rd and long, I think, is usually considered like 7 or more. So, and there's several of them, like you said, that were 10 or more. And Clemson, on the other hand, was moving the chains, and then they were using Renfro to get those quick hitters. I think those two guys have to have a big game. From the defensive side. From the offensive side, James, now my disappointment with our offensive coordinator has been the utilization of the running backs. And we've already addressed that the running backs need to have a big game. But my shock is the fact that we've not utilized the tight ends more effectively. Therefore, the two guys, whichever combination Alabama uses, whichever one they use the most, however they use them, must have a big game. You go back the last 2 games, I don't know how many he had in his career, but I know he had 3 50-yard touchdowns, 50-plus touchdowns. And that's O.J. Howard. So you would assume this is what's going on. Now, I was talking about Alabama saying you got to stop Renfro. I'm sure Dabo's going, we got to stop the tight end position. But I think Alabama has to figure out how to use the tight end position early in the game to prevent. Here's what frustrates me. You got Calvin Ridley on the outside. They're going to double team him, and they're double teaming him by putting a guy over the top a lot of times. But if you make that guy under the middle of the field, it makes it a lot tougher for him to get out there over Ridley because the middle of the field is exposed. And the only way they can counteract a Ridley on the outside, a Foster, Sims, Judy, Smith, Ruggs on the other outside, and a slot guy and a tight end is to go with cover 3. Or they have to put a linebacker out there. Either way, they're going to either open up the running game if you make them honor the tight end passes in the middle of the field. And we've done a poor job of that this year. But 3 touchdowns by O.J. Howard of 50 yards or more in the first 2 games, Hinges and Irv Smith may not have a touchdown that long, James, but you cannot tell me that they will not utilize those guys as part of the passing game early. And Saban talking about route design, look for them to use the tight end, even if it's to hold the safeties, even if it's just to hold the safeties so that Ridley can get a little more space, so that Ruggs can get a little more space, so our receivers can get a little more space with the safeties anytime they want to bracket or combo or double team over the top. Look for Hinges and Irv Smith to play a big role. So of those 4 positions, I think the group that has to have the best game has to be the DBs. Because if we stop the quarterback, but we allow them to keep drives going by hitting that running back, it's not going to matter. I mean, by hitting Renfro on those third downs, it's not going to matter. So love to hear your thoughts on that. Those 4 all, I think it's kind of ironic. Bo was doing great last year, got hurt. Han, Miller, and Lewis, we did great until the last drive. But those rub routes with Renfro is going to be the key, James. I think if we can get them off the field on third down and keep Hunter Renfro from hurting us on third down, then Alabama not only wins this game, but they pull away to a nice, comfortable victory. If not, it's going to be a dog fight or a cat fight or whatever you want to call it for 4 quarters. As Alabama Crimson Tide prepares to play the Clemson Tigers, we'll continue to break that down, continue to look at matchups and different areas that Alabama has to play at a high level if they're going to take care of the Clemson Tigers.